Hello, my friends. Have you ever been interested in starting a magical practice? This video is for you. We'll have some information on kind of what to look at, how to get started, and all such as that. And also our tarot card reading for the week to come, coming right up. Well, hello, my friends. Thank you for joining me once again this week. Brian No from Cards of Light with our tarot card reading for the week to come and a little talk about magic this time around. I have just begun over the past few months to really actually begin practicing what I would consider ceremonial magic, but mainly beyond tarot, which is also kind of a magical practice. But wanted to talk a little bit about my journey with that, share some resources with you, which will also be in the description box, and also just some tips on kind of how to get started, how to do it safely, and how to make it a rewarding experience for you, at least as much as possible. So if you would give this video a thumbs up at some point while you're watching, and if you're new here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please do subscribe so you get all new content when it comes out. Okay, starting with magic. Many years ago, actually October of 1999, I picked up a copy of a book by Isaac Bonewits called Real Magic. And it was the first kind of foundational text that I had ever taken a look at. Obviously, it was a modern text. It was not some kind of ancient, system of magic, but he really distilled sort of the essence of what it means to create a magical practice and some of the kind of fundamental principles involved with it. So that was really fascinating to me, but I just sort of wasn't ready. It was of interest, but I just didn't have at that time kind of the discipline and the drive to develop any kind of practice. I did get some other books on the topic at the time, some of Scott Cunningham's stuff, uh, some other stuff that was kind of related in some ways, but really just didn't kind of delve any deeper than sort of reading some of those books and thinking about it. And I suppose that another way to look at it is that I sort of got lost in materialism for a few years there, where the clear understanding that we are more than our bodies, we are more than our egos, we are more than the personalities that we inhabit during this incarnation. That was sort of lost on me. I was caught up in doing things and creating a family, raising family, that kind of stuff. So just didn't have the time to devote, but also kind of my interest wasn't there. About 7 years ago, now in my 60s, I began this marvelous transformation that marked a return to some of that material. I reread the Bonewits book, got interested in tarot, started doing my card a day draw and all of that. If you want to see the earlier video where I talk about that experience, I'll link that in the description box as well. But began to get interested in kind of these sorts of activities once again, and did not dive in head first into a magical practice of any sort. I think for a couple reasons. One was that I was still just sort of on the fringes of doubt, I guess. Like, okay, do I want to really focus a lot of attention on this stuff? Is it real? Those kind of questions. And then if it's real, was a little scary to me. And that sounds ridiculous, but whenever we are delving into forces that are powerful and have the potential to transform our lives. And that does carry a little bit of wariness and a little bit of danger, I think, as well, if we're smart. For me, luckily, or at least the way it unfolded for me, I got involved with devotional and meditative practice at about the same time, and really focused my attention on that for several years before kind of returning to any kind of interest in magical practices. And I think that was good. I think it got me grounded. It gave me a good sense of sort of what is real and what isn't. And I think also made me feel much more secure about things and created not just that sense of security, but actual security, the knowledge that, this eternal spirit cannot be harmed. Uh, Things can happen to our bodies. Things can have consequences in what we experience as material reality and probably beyond as well. But that essentially who we are is already safe and secure and eternal and perfect, that sort of thing. So yeah, it gave me a little bit more um, level of comfort in kind of delving into some of these other things. I read a lot and learned a lot before I ever tried to do anything. This was a process of many years. So I feel like when I began to do uh, some rituals and things like that, uh, and some workings and things like that, I was really well prepared to do that, and had a methodical approach, and was able to at least so far keep myself safe and that sort of thing. So here is what I would recommend if you're interested in delving into this. First of all, be well versed. Learn a lot before you try to do anything. Look for some practical examples out there. There's lots of good stuff on YouTube, lots of good books. Look for honest research. Uh, there is such a variety out there too. You'll maybe want to look at lots of different approaches to this subject. So uh, there are witches, there are ceremonial magicians, there are any number of other different approaches to uh, kind of doing workings and things like that. And some of those may not appeal to you at all. Uh, and some of them may really resonate. I would say just follow your nose on that. Yeah, the more that you learn, uh, the more that you experience, the more you'll be able to parse all of that, and you will be drawn to the things that are going to serve you best and going to fit best into your life. Uh, I want to just mention some of the folks that have been most influential to me uh, during this journey. Uh, Lon Milo Duquette, who we mentioned a lot of times on this program, is uh, one of the foremost living authorities on ceremonial magic, kind of in the tradition of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and Aleister Crowley and folks like that. And he's one of the foremost practitioners of kind of in the Western Hermetic esoteric tradition. So he is really good. Lots of good books from him. Uh, Kellyanne Maddox, who is a witch, uh, and her YouTube channel is just marvelous. Really, really good information. And her book, Rebel Witch, is also excellent. Um, Annie, who has the Green Witch channel on YouTube, is, if you're interested in kind of herbalism, herbal magic, uh, hearth, home, that sort of thing. very much grounded, earth-based practice. Uh, Her stuff is really good, and her book about kind of magical herbalism is marvelous as well. And then another of my favorite YouTube channels is Mage Space, uh, which again focuses kind of on the Golden Dawn traditions, but lays out information in very digestible, kind of bite-sized videos a lot of time. It gets to the essence of what's going on there. And just kind of, I like his vibe as well. So those are the ones on YouTube that I like. All kinds of information out there, though some of it you may kind of connect with more than others. Um, so you just have to expose yourself to a lot of different influences and see what kind of takes and makes the most sense to you. Find a good teacher if you can, one that you vibe with. And that can either be one that you will actually connect with personally, uh, or it may be someone that you read or watch. But once you sort of settle on the types of activities and the style that you want to work with, then uh, I would say settle on kind of the main person that you're learning from, and try to really delve into their information. So if you're doing everything at once you start to kind of narrow it down, you might get distracted. So you can kind of settle on, okay, what do I really want to accomplish here, and what's the next step to that? Uh, I think it really needs to be emphasized that these are powerful technologies for psychological change, if nothing else. So it is important to emphasize safety. I think a big part of that is learning a lot before you do anything, and then doing some of the shielding practices and ritual practices and energetic practices that can keep your practice focused and keep it safe from influences that you don't want to be influenced by. It's really important to be healthy and grounded whenever we're dealing with anything that has to do with spiritual pursuits. There is a tendency for us to veer off into directions where we sometimes have difficulty distinguishing between what is real and what isn't. And we it's fine to use our imagination and fantasies and things to drive a grounded practice, but we don't want to get out there into areas where we are not able to distinguish what is healthy and what is good for us, and what is healthy and beneficial to those that are closest to us and for the society around us and all of that. So it's important that we uh, practices like this are not a substitute for uh, good mental health, good physical health, all of that. We need to attend those things, and then that will make us much more powerful in these practices that we choose to work with. We also need to realize that magic is not going to solve all of our problems any more than religion does, any more than music or literature or anything like that does. It can help us lead a richer life, but it's not the sort of meditation the same way. You start meditating, sometimes your problems get worse at first because you're able to pay attention in a different way. It's not a substitute for uh, a grounded and well organized life. So we need to attend to those issues kind of on a separate track, or maybe first before we delve into some of this other stuff. Um, I would say start slow, be deliberate, be gentle, and just as you would if you were learning to cook or something like that, follow the recipe. Look at what other people who are doing this work uh, do and recommend, and start slowly to incorporate maybe a, a, a few practices at a time, and keep notes then. Um, get a good handle on, okay, I did this, I did this in this way. Now, what happened as a result? How did I feel afterwards? So it's not just what kind of things manifest in material reality, but what manifests within our emotions and our body and our spirit as a result of these practices. And in some ways, that can even be more important than any effects that happen out in the material world. So follow the proven methods and techniques and spells and practices and that sort of thing. Keep notes on what you did, how it worked. Uh, keep notes on how it felt, and then proceed from there. And have fun, I think, is the other thing. And this is something that probably not advice that a lot of people would maybe give, but I think that's part of the deal. If you are if it is enjoyable and adds richness to your life, that is a reward just on its own right there. So if it's not that we won't sometimes have to uh, labor over these sorts of practices, but it should not be drudgery. It should be something that brings wonder and joy and excitement into our lives. And so look for that. Follow your nose to the fun, and you'll probably be all right. Personally, uh, one of the things that has been really interesting and rewarding for me so far has been uh, some very simple candle magic work. Uh, and for instance, if you want to tie in what you're doing in magic with things that are going on in society, there's a great book from Michael Hughes on magic for the resistance. I've been doing one of his spells. I started this last month, and I'll be doing it every month now. And finding that to be just a, a really good activity in terms of uh, creating hope in my own spirit and in my ability to face all of this madness that's going on in the world, and to not just completely lose heart. Uh, so I think that these practices, although they seem, kind of weird and seem kind of unrelated to, daily life, I think that they can have some really good effects uh, that are sort of secondary maybe to the aim of what we're trying to do with a particular working or whatever. It can just bring beauty and hope and love and joy into our lives. And anything that does that, I think, is a good thing. I'd love to hear what you think. If you are a practitioner of magic of some sort, you've got resources that you'd like to share, please leave them in comments here with the video, or you can get in touch with me through the contact information on the weblog at atarotjourney.com. Also, if you have questions about any of this or concerns, challenges, whatever, please feel free to reach out with those as well, or leave comments here on the video if you would like. We, I think, can all learn from each other, and we'll all be better and happier as a result. I think that's all that I've got to say on this topic this week. Let's go now to the table for our tarot card reading for the week to come. Okay, we're going to do a 3-card reading once again this week using the Thoth deck. And our first card, opening influences, kind of waning influences for this week, is the Ten of Cups. Predominant energies for the week would be the Queen of Wands. And finally, emerging influences or energies this week, the Ten of Swords. So 2 pip cards in a court, all 3 different suits, and these 2 tens here on each end. Let's take these one at a time. The Ten of Cups is generally an auspicious card. It's the one in the RWS deck that has the happy family standing out on the hill under blue skies, beautiful rainbow overhead, just everything idyllic and beautiful and content. And in the Thoth deck, this card is styled Satiety. And some of you who've been around long enough will remember that I used to use that RWS version of this card as kind of the main image for this Cards of Light channel early on. In any case, this card is about all of that beauty and happiness and shared comforts of family and all of that. And it is also about generosity and peacemaking. It is, of course, a little bit easier for us to be generous, a little bit easier for us to wish others well when everything is going well in our lives. And so that would kind of be expected. But this card is obviously the suit of cups, the suit of the heart, the 10, the card as we're reaching the end of that cycle. And so we're wanting to kind of pay that beauty and kindness and love forward with generous hearts and the instinct to make peace with everyone. And then we come to this card in the center, the Queen of Wands, and it is also about generosity, but it's a different kind of generosity. It is the type of generosity that is meant to curry favor and cooperation. My short notes on this card are she who must be obeyed. So elementally, this card is water of fire. So I always think of it as being like lighter fluid, that it can jump from place to place very quickly and spread that fire in ways that are unexpected and sometimes difficult to contend with and to predict. So sometimes this card can represent a female figure or a femme presenting person, but regardless of all of that, always represents charisma and being a very attractive power, very attractive energy, very attractive person. And so generous, but in order to get what she wants. Very charismatic, but also domineering. And if she doesn't get what she wants by these kind of softer means, by her charisma and giving gifts and that sort of thing, giving people what they want, then she will resort to forcing the issue and to horrible things, revenge and just domineering and stubbornness and all of that. So the story that we see here this week begins with, contentedness and generosity and reaching out to make peace with someone, and then their energy kind of meeting that and appearing to meet it in kind, but really with the underlying agenda of getting what they want. And then we get over here to this 10 of Swords, and this card is styled Ruin in the Thoth deck. It's the one that depicts the assassination of Julius Caesar in the RWS deck. It is about ruin and about failure and death. And so there's just kind of no way to look at this spread and not be thinking about what's going on here in our society in the United States. We may be seeing, some attempts at people sort of meeting each other halfway and trying to kind of settle things and calm things down a little bit throughout the week. But we need to be careful about capitulating to folks whose intentions are not good and kind of going along to get along and that kind of stuff. We need to really solve the problems that are facing our society. And if we don't, it leads to this 10 of Swords. The good news, if there is any from this 10 of Swords and all of the ruin and devastation that it represents, is that it also can herald the end of delusions. And so I would say that we should hold on to that. It's not a pretty picture this week, though. I do hope that maybe I'm not reading these quite right. And I would love to hear what you think. If you have got comments on this spread and the way that I looked at it, then I'd love to read them. You can leave them here with the video or visit the weblog at atarotjourney.com and get in touch with me there. But basically, again, the advice that I would see in these cards is to approach people peaceably and with a generous spirit, but to not get roped into other people's lines of BS. So that's the way I would see these. Thank you for joining me once again this week. We will be back soon with more. In the meantime, as always, I wish you peace. Take care of yourself out there.